How we doing, everyone? Welcome back to another edition of FSI's PGA DFS Pick Show. I am your host, TK Nation 47, joined with John Cool 19. John, welcome to another week. How was the Mexico Open for you, and are you excited for the Wells Fargo Championship?
Yeah, Mexico Open, the course looked fantastic. The resort itself looked even better than that. Certainly would be a destination type event to go to one day. Really cool. Hope they do continue to do it beyond just the couple of years that they committed to for now. So we'll see if they do that. But yeah, excited. Wells Fargo, big event usually most years. It is a different course this year. We'll get into that a little bit, but excited for a little bit better field. And Rory might do the same thing John Rahm did last week and just storm the field. But I think we've got a bit better competition for him this week. At least the second tier guys, I think, are much better. And then maybe the third tier and below is about the same.
Yeah, I would say that's about right when it comes to the field. Rory, having done what you had said, stormed the field last year in the Wells Fargo Championship, but that was at Quail Hollow. This is at TPC Potomac. Not a new course. New to the Wells Fargo Championship, but not new to us. Go ahead and talk to us a little bit about TPC Potomac.
Yeah, so they previously played on this course. That was at the Quicken Loans back like 2017-18. We'll look at that course history just a little bit this week, but there's only a handful of golfers that really are in this field that played there either once or twice. So I'm not putting much weight into that. But yeah, TPC Potomac, this is in Potomac, Maryland, just outside Washington, D.C. Looking at kind of the weather report, it's going to be cold and rain a couple days and potentially some good wind. So I'm almost excited for that to potentially look at some wave stacking this week if we can get the weather just right. So check us in the Discord for details on that come Wednesday afternoon, Wednesday evening. But the course itself, it's a par 70. There are only 2 par 5s on this course. So really discounting that when normally I put it pretty heavily in my model. Every week you got to score on par 5s. And these are crazy difficult long par 5s. One of them well over 600 yards. The other one is not necessarily any easier. Tons of water on this course. We're looking at least 10 of the holes has water as a possible out of bounds there. So, or as a hazard. Quite a bit of sand as well, but kind of the main features of this course: rolling hills, heavily tree lined. You have to be accurate off the tee. We've got long, thick rough to deal with. That is the standard here at this course. Some golfers that played here when it was a Korn Ferry Tour event kind of described it as like a U.S. Open-esque. Very, very difficult. Now, if you look back at Quicken Loans, Molinari did go absolutely nutso and score a ton of birdies, but that's not really what we expect on most weeks. And then especially this week, I'm expecting maybe even like a single digit below par winner. The greens, they are very difficult to hit. They are quite small when it comes to tour average, well below that average. The course isn't super long, 7,100 yards with that par 70. This is going to be really difficult, a big test. So we're looking at drive accuracy. That's probably one of the top stats this week, along with ball striking. You need to be able to get into the fairway here, or you're going to be in big, big trouble all week long. We're looking at bogey avoidance. Again, very difficult course. I am using some comp courses this week, including TPC River Highlands, Sedgefield, and Colonial as well. Some other difficult tracks like Sawgrass are kind of into my modeling as well. I'm looking at par 4 scoring from 450 to 500 yards. There's going to be at least 6 holes kind of in that range. And then long irons. So proximity from 175 to 200 and 200 plus, a lot of shots coming in from that range this week. And then really just because the fairways are kind of difficult to hit and the greens are small, we're looking at around the greens and scrambling this week, heavier than we normally would. But again, I would focus most around that drive accuracy as your main stat.
Yeah, well done on the breakdown. You think 200 plus? I wasn't sure if this was long enough. I know there's a couple of short par 4s.
Yeah, I think just looking on Fantasy National as far as how the approaches came in when it was played here back on the Quicken Loans event, we did have a lot of the 200 plus as well, but the 175 to 200 definitely stuck out versus tour average, but both of those are pretty similar as far as how many shots are going to come in from that range this week. But you're absolutely right. As far as tour average goes, there's a much bigger discrepancy when it comes to the 175 to 2.
Yeah, I have 175 to 2. I also have 150 to 175. I think maybe because of that long par 5 and maybe just kind of favor the Bombers a little bit with that proximity.
Sure.
I also had opportunities gained because of the short greens, and then just to echo everything you said, basically accuracy off the tee, fairways gained, big stat this week, along with off the tee as well. Because I feel like you have to have some distance,
Sure.
and you have to be able to score off the tee, but you also have to be able to be accurate. So I like that. I love the breakdown. Good job, John. Let's get into the picks now. Like we had mentioned, better field. I'm going up top. I'm going Corey Connors at 10-1. 16-1 is probably not the best bet for a guy like Corey Connors. Not really a proven winner for 16-1. Certainly a good DraftKings play, I think, because he's really going to score you a lot of DK points. He's going to get birdies. He's going to be able to get to pins. And his putting hasn't been that bad. I think he's, let me see here. In the field, he is 17th in putts from 5 to 10 feet, and 51st in 10 to 15. Not terrible from Corey Connors, and doesn't do that bad on bent grass either. So I think you can firmly play Corey Connors 5th off the tee, 14th in bogey avoidance, and 45th in fairways gained. He did play here in 2018, finished 41st, but I'm not factoring that in a lot to this week. But just wanted to make a side note that he did play the course, coming in with great form with the 12th at the RBC and the 6th at the Masters, which is bent grass greens on the green. So love me Corey Connors. I think he's a really safe play this week. Your thoughts on him and your favorite play of the week?
Yeah, I like Corey Connors quite a bit. If you look at the last 6 events or so, total strokes gained, he comes in number 2 overall, looking at just that. So the form is fantastic. The only golfer with more strokes gained over the last 6 PGA events is Matt Kuchar. Interesting as far as form. Now, that's not their last 6 events. It's just the last 6 for on tour, and the total strokes gained. Corey hasn't played as many events as Kuchar has, but still very interesting to look at. But I like him a lot. For me, I went with Matthew Fitzpatrick up top. Obviously, if you want to go Rory here, there is nothing wrong with that. I don't think there's, last week a lot of people were on Rahm for their DraftKings, and a lot of people are going to do that same thing this week for Rory. No issues with that, but I do like a little bit more value up top here with Matthew Fitzpatrick. He did miss his last cut there at the RBC Heritage. I'm not extremely concerned about that. Based on his form going into there, he made 11 out of the 13 cuts previous to that. And in the 10 events, his last 10 events, 5 of those, he has top 15 finishes. I would absolutely love another top 15 finish from Matthew Fitzpatrick this week. He comes in number 1 in bogey avoidance in this field over the last 50 rounds. He also rates out really well on comp courses. He's one of the very few golfers really on tour, but in this event especially, that gains strokes in all categories: off the tee, approach, around the greens, and putting. Bent is not his best putting service. That may be really a small concern, but he doesn't do all the work necessarily just with his putter. He's 16th ball striking in this field and 23rd on finding fairways. So a lot to like there. 23rd scrambling as well. So I do like Fitzpatrick. I think the price is really fair for DraftKings. And if you wanted to pay up, if I ever do right about 10K as my max, I'd be okay with either of these guys as your first guy in on a cash lineup.
Yeah, I don't mind that one bit going either or. Certainly going to have both in my player pool. Matthew Fitzpatrick does pretty well at Memorial every year. I did see that because I was contemplating him for one and done, and we'll talk about it later. But I just noticed, I was like, oh, I mean the bent splits doesn't look good enough. But when you go to a place, I think they played it back to back after COVID. He did fairly well at both the workday and then the Memorial, which was played at the same course. So I like Fitz. I think he's going to do fine on bent grass. All right, moving on to value. I'm going to go with Cam Young, 8K, 28-1. I really like this pick. I don't even mind the bet at 28-1. I would hope for longer odds for a guy that hasn't won, but if you're looking at his season, it is quite awesome. He had a 3rd place at the RBC. He did miss the cut at the Masters and Players, but I mean, that's the first time he's played in the Masters, first time he's played at the Players. I'm sure nerves. I think there was a wave disadvantage for him at the Players. So, he doesn't bring it to the first couple of majors. Everyone's not, Jordan Spieth or Colin Morikawa. So he'll take his lumps, but all these non-major events he's crushed. 13th at API, 16th at the Honda, 2nd at the Genesis. So he's got some really, really strong finishes. And I think Cam Young, very long, straight off the tee, and he's just a good putter. Bomb and gouge and putt. And then, if he can keep it in the fairway, he can get some distance. He's going to be using shorter clubs, and on these small greens, I like that being able to have a better ball flight. So I really hope Cam Young comes through. It's going to be probably one of my highest owned golfers this week, and I'm not done talking about him. We'll talk about him a little bit later. And then next, I'm going with Keith Mitchell. I think he's pretty safe for your money here at 7-8. There was a couple other guys I liked in this range. I think Streelman was one of them. Brian Harmon and Joel Dahman. I think we were talking about Dahman earlier, but I wanted to go with Keith Mitchell at 40-1. He's really good off the tee, first in the field off the tee. I just think he's a really solid course fit. He did miss the cut in 2018, but that's a long time ago. I'm sure a lot of things have changed. He's 81st in fairways, so I really hope this is one of his on weeks. He's teetering that dangerous line of, is it going to be good enough this week? Is it going to be, a bad week off the tee? But 18th in par 5, 2nd in par 4s from 450 to 500. So he's really good at those long holes, and 15th in bogey avoidance. So he can get it done. Let's hope the putting comes through from 10 to 15 feet, and Keith Mitchell's in the winning lineup. Your thoughts on those two, and who are your favorite value plays this week?
Yeah, definitely. I will be on both of these guys. I think Cameron Young, we've been talking about him almost every single week on this show, or at least within our Discord chat. We are a big fan of his game right now, and he's certainly going to pick up a win here in the near future. I would expect probably before the end of the season, especially at the rate he's playing a ton of events.
Let's hope it's this week.
All right, I'm all for it. I'm in for that. So, a couple guys I went with. You mentioned Streelman as one of the guys you liked in this range. I really do like him too. He's kind of a golfer who's been around for a while. The 80-1 number, not necessarily in love with that. It's fine, but I have seen kind of as low as 60-1 odds. So I think his price is maybe a bit fair on DraftKings at the 7,700, and it could have been a little bit more expensive. He did make the cut, wasn't that impressive at the Mexico Open, 67th, and a missed cut before that. So if you're looking just at the immediate form, he's not going to be the golfer who pops in your model. But before that, he did have a top 25 in 4 of his last 5 events. That includes 7th place at the Valspar. He comes in overall like 7th in my model when I'm including all the stats and doing comp courses, things of that nature. So there's a lot to like here. He actually did play the Quicken Loans both in 17, 18. He finished 17th and 32nd. So he's got 2 made cuts on this course in his past. But really the stat model is the reason I'm going here with Streelman. 9th for fairways gained. The ball striking is fine. It's 49th, not super impressive, but 21st on bogey avoidance and 14th scrambling. There is a lot to like here for Kevin Streelman, especially just the accuracy off the tee. So I'm going to go there. I'm also going with a guy we've played a bunch of this season, and that's Aaron Rye. Both of you and I were discussing right before lock last week. We both wanted to jam him in, especially over on Yahoo. The price was really, really fair there. I got him into my cash lineup in both of DraftKings and on Yahoo. So I'm going to be playing him a bunch again this week. He's made 7 out of his last 10 cuts, 24th down in Mexico. That was just fine for his price. I think he was in the top 10 for the majority of the week, and then just didn't quite get it done on Sunday, but he will be getting it done here in the near future. Another golfer that I absolutely could see winning an event. One of these smaller this, or like the Barbasol or something like that here in the near future. I see that coming. His last 50 rounds, 32nd ball striking, 14th fairways gained. 24th tee to green. And really the tee to green game has just kind of been where he's excelled lately. The putter is fine, but he's been getting better and better tee to green as the events have gone on here. He also rates out really well on difficult scoring courses. He's had a few good finishes this year on courses that are eating other golfers up. So I like that this week. I'm kind of expecting the same thing. Specifically comp courses, he doesn't have any that I listed into my comp course model, so I don't know about the exact course fit, but I think he's primed for a really good week here.
Yeah, Aaron Rai was a really solid 8,700, I think it was, price tag was, play last week. He didn't have that much ownership, and he just kept falling into my lineups, and he really came through. Yeah, and Streelman, I already mentioned how I like him this week. It's all about that driver for him right now. It's really saving him in his game, and that's exactly what we want. Long and straight off the tee. That's what Streelman's been up to. Aaron Wright, side note, 2 gloves. Guy wears 2 gloves, 2 black gloves. Worn them forever too. So you got to be a fan of somebody that's just different, right? So
absolutely,
I'm a fan. I'm a fan.
If he's in one of the final few groups on Sunday, they will mention it at least 7 or 8 times during the broadcast.
Yes,
it is probably the only thing besides maybe the college he went to that they will mention about him, unless he is in the final grouping. But yeah, that'll be the talk of the coverage, just as it was earlier this year. I think I'm trying to think what event it was where he was in the final grouping, and the Charles Schwab, maybe they just loved him.
Yeah, I was going to say maybe it was the Amex or something, but I remember that exactly. Yeah. That's all they talked about. I was like, oh my God, I get it. He's wearing 2 black gloves.
Yeah.
All right, moving on. Let's get to our sleepers of the week. I'm going to go Tyler Duncan, 6,900. T-Dunks, known in the industry, 180 to 1. Not bad on the price. Maybe good top 20 bet. I think Tyler Duncan is not really in it to win it unless you're in like I think he won Sea Island, a swing season coastal course. He does really well at the RBC. He was 12th there last week. So he's kind of I like him just riding that form into, another week here. Really surprised me off the tee, 16th off the tee, 4th in fairways. That was enough for me to be sold. He's not really going to rate out super high in anything else, but if what we're really keying on is being long and straight, and he's going to be one of those players this week, then I'm going to be on board. It's 36th in bogey avoidance. So as long as he can hit enough birdie putts to get into that cut line and maybe have a solid weekend, that's all I really ask for Tyler Duncan. I don't think I'm going to be overexposed on anyone under the 7K mark this week. Not much to go on under the 7K range. A lot of good plays from that 8K to 7K range that I think I'm going to be jumping in at. So that's really going to stretch out my ownership at the top, and it's really going to flood my ownership in the 7K market. So I like it. He did play this course in 2018, finished 41st. So give me Tyler Duncan. Your thoughts on T-Dunks, and I think your sleeper is not so much of a sleeper. Tell us why.
Yeah, I do like Tyler Duncan quite a bit this week. But as far as my modeling goes, the guy who just jumped off the charts for his price tag, that's Ryan Armour, 6,800, 200 to 1. We were chatting before this, and I mentioned that I wanted to chat up Ryan Armour. Then I looked at the ownership projections. Right now on Fantasy National, he is projected over 10% ownership. That is just terrifying for a guy at 6,800 and 200 to 1 odds. So I absolutely like Ryan Armour this week. I think he is a fantastic option at this price. If you're playing in a big MME tournament, I usually only do the 20 max until we get to majors. In my 20 max, I will have to decide whether or not to play 11% owned Ryan Armour, and that's really scary. We'll see, though. But he rates out well. There's every reason to play him, except for the ownership. So looking at the reasons why, the form isn't great. He's made 5 out of his last 10 cuts. That's kind of a Ryan Armour's MO. He did finish 15th at Corrales, 28th at Pebble Beach, and 20th at Sony, another very difficult course. He was 29th on this course in 2017. So a little bit of at least experience playing the course. He ranks out 31st in long-term bent grass putting, so I like that. The comp courses, he rates out really well there, but he's number one in the last 50 rounds for fairways gained, super accurate off the tee. He's 23rd ball striking. I like that a lot. 28th tee to green, and he's third bogey avoidance, and then also number one in proximity from 200 plus. There's nobody else in this model besides Rory that has two number one ranks in the stats I was looking at. It's him. It's Rory and Ryan Armour. So that's why he is as popular as he is right now. We'll see what I do kind of right before lock, trying to make a decision whether or not to get overexposed on 11% Ryan Armour or just completely fade and hope he bombs. But there's every reason to like him this week. I think that 200 to 1 is a great option, maybe even a top 5 on him, just because everything lines up for him to have a good week. But on DraftKings, yeah, that's a scary ownership.
He's maybe he's the golfer that makes you, damned if you do, damned if you don't kind of mentality. Like, because I assume a lot of Rory lineups are going to have Ryan Armour, and if Rory wins and Armour's in the top 20, then we're looking at everything else being the difference between the winning lineup with the ownership that he could carry, especially in cash. If people do decide to go that route in cash, I don't know if people are bold enough, but sometimes in those large double ups, you'll have guys take shots at these 6K guys just to make sure they get someone like Rory McIlroy. And coming off of a win where, the overlying favorite won, I could see that playing out just a little bit, maybe not so much as, like you said earlier, maybe it's not as, of a strong case, as Rahm was in much better form than Rory, but we'll see. So that'll do it for sleepers. Let's get into the one and done. I'm going to go Cam Young. I'm falling out of the money with 2 back-to-back missed cuts. Not happy with that. But I'm so close. Anything inside the top 10 is going to put me back up. So if Cam Young has a breakthrough victory, he will live in, infamy in my lineup building from here on out. So hopefully all or nothing on Cam Young works this week. How about you?
Yep, and I went with another guy I talked about earlier, Aaron Rai. I'm playing with pretty much everybody I can think of here in one and done. I'm convinced no matter who I pick here, that's the guy who's going to just falter. But yeah, I thought about Strillman a little bit as well in this spot, and even Joel Damon. I think he's an option. Probably want to load up onto him a little more in DraftKings, so I'll save him off of this. Even like Russell Henley or Keegan Bradley, I think are great options for your one and done selections, or even go up top for Rory. I'm saving him to blow him at a major where he will miss the cut. So, but yeah, Rory is absolutely an option and should be pretty much a lock for a top 20.
I can see Rory being popular after Jon Rahm winning. And then I can also see Corey Connors being that really high owned one and done selection this week. So if he misses the cut, it's going to look good in my one and done pool. It's going to look bad on my DraftKings lineups. So hopefully Cam finishes first and Corey finishes 10th or something. I'll go with that. All right, that'll wrap things up, guys, for the Wells Fargo Championship. Thank you for listening in. Please like this video. Comment below with any questions you may have on any lineups or just course talk or just anything in general. John and I will be on to help. John, any final thoughts on the Wells Fargo before I say goodbye?
Nope, it should be a fun week, kind of gearing up for a PGA Championship in just a couple more weeks here. And, looking forward to it.
Yep, Southern Hills is coming down, breathing down our necks. Like you said before we got on the show, we're going to have to start reaching out to Tiger's associates for some course notes, getting all the info from the superintendent. I believe he was the course designer, just out there telling them where to hit the ball. Yeah, it must be nice. The best
part about that story was the professional golfers like Wesley Bryan that were on Twitter replying to the Twitter facts saying, I do this regularly on tour and every superintendent is happy to show any golfer who asks. It should just be a slap into the face to whoever that account is, Justine. and let them know that all Patrick Reed has to do is ask, and they will show him around. It is embarrassing that somebody would think that that's inappropriate when it's done every single week by whoever asks. So
yeah, I actually hope he would ask and they say no. No, just me.
That would be better. That would be a story. That would be something she should post about. But
now
that
is
happen.
what I'm talking about.
Instead, they cry about something that's not a something.
Fantastic. All right, guys, that's it for us. Enjoy the Wells Fargo Championship. You can follow me on Twitter at TK Nation. That is John Cool 19. All right, guys, enjoy.
Good luck.